that our rookies will go full gas for races 5 and 6 of our season. The first 4 races have been epic. I'm sure the next 2 will be just as amazing.
I'm already exhausted, my voice is starting to go. I've got to remain calm, but Keyless is not helping that. Oh, look at that! Harry Voigt, how on earth did you do that?
It is 4 abreast going down the main straight. Up the inside comes Luca Lunetta. Luca Lunetta surely going to have the advantage side by side with the 28, and I think it perhaps is Max Kies who got it. It is.
Mugello is one of the trickier circuits on the rookies' calendar. It's so tight and twisty, it tests riders' skills and courage to the absolute limit. To hear more about that, Peter Clifford caught up with ex-rookie and MotoGP race winner Jorge Martin to learn a bit more about it.
So Jorge, we're standing here on the circuit in Mugello. It really is one of the fabulous Grand Prix tracks, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. It's one of the best tracks, I think. The most beautiful place also, and yeah, about the track is amazing, really fast corners, and I always enjoy to ride here.
And it's a track with a lot of slipstreaming and that. What are the most important things about the track, do you think?
Yeah, well, for sure, the long straight in Moto3, the slipstream is so important, but I think also a lot of fast chicanes is really important to be a little bit slow and sacrifice the first corner to be fast on the second one.
And, you know, in your cup-winning year, you were incredible here in Mugello. You dominated the race, really broke free of everybody. How did you manage to do that?
Yeah, well, as I told you, try to push from the beginning. I think the first 2 laps are the most important to decide if you can pull away or not. And if you don't do it in the first laps, will be almost impossible. But if you can manage this situation, afterwards it's much more easy.
And if you don't get away, you know, if you're still in a bunch and you're coming into that incredible last left-hander down, how do you manage to win out of a group?
Yeah, I think it's important during the practices also to understand and try to try with another riders if you can overtake before the finish line, and yeah, if you have a good strategy, for sure at the end, if you exit second or third, you can win the race.
Some truly insightful stuff from Jorge Martin there. I do wonder if we'll see some of our rookies snapping at his heels in MotoGP in the future. Can't wait for that. But for now, let's see how our top 6 qualifiers line up for this weekend's races. Farioli starts from a dream home pole position with Piqueras and Loletta joining him on the front row. Rueda, Mihaila and O'Gorman make up the top 6, and that's 3 Italians on the front 2 rows here at Mugello.
4 races done, another 10 to go. But who will come out on top today? Stay right where you are to find out. Good luck, Max. Time to hand you over to our commentary team of Peter Clifford and Matt Dunn.
Well, thanks, Dominica, and really the news here is that picture you see in front of you, because look at those clouds. There's a rain here at Mugello. The track is now wet. We really should be looking at riders on the grid, but in fact they've been funneled off back into the pit lane to change for wet tyres, and it's looking very, very dodgy out there. But the safe option here is the rain tyres here, the good Dunlop rain tyres. They will stand an awful lot of abuse, and even if the track does in fact dry out through the race, that won't be too much of a problem. And of course they'll be squirmy, moving around a bit, but we've got a lot of experience with the Dunlop tyres, and it's a much safer option obviously than going out on slicks in these very, very tricky conditions, eh, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been threatening to do this all day long, hasn't it? The forecast coming into this weekend, Saturday, thunderstorms, rain from midday. I won't ruin any of the MotoGP, Moto2, Moto3 or even Moto E sections that we've had earlier on here today, but it's been threatening. Some were interrupted by storms here and there, but it's not had a proper true deluge ready for proper wet tyres throughout a session so far. But this is it, just in time for our rookies, and they've not had any wet time so far this weekend here.
Yeah, we won't have to wait too long. We've been told that the pit lane will open, you know, in about 5 minutes time, so we should be underway shortly. They're just finishing, you know, the finishing touches to making sure everything's good with the bikes and that, and with the rain tyres. And it just to give us a chance to talk about a few things. One, you know, it was interesting. One of the interesting things here is we've never had an Italian winner here at Mugello in Rookies Cup. And talking to Jorge Martin as we were, he gave us that, you know, insightful chat in the pre-show there. When he did win in 2014, he dominated the race. Second was Italian Manuel Pagliani, and third was Stefano Manzi. So they were second and third. In fact, that is the best result ever for Italians in the Rookies Cup, finishing second and third behind Jorge Martin. And we're still waiting for an Italian victor, but maybe we're going to get it today.
Yeah, I do wonder that, because Filippo Farioli has been on absolute fire fire all weekend here, isn't he? Since he turned up, he was top of free practice, sorry, top of qualifying practice, and he took that pole position sensationally. He could have gone even quicker, but I think he got held up in the group a fair bit there. He was looking super strong. He's got to be the best shout for it. But what about someone like Luca Lunetta, of course? Last time out, he had some pretty good runs out as well, didn't he? The other Italian finished second in the last race we had at Jerez to Max Quiles, as we saw in the highlights. So who could it be?
Well, yeah, as you say, Farioli actually told me after practice that he was so determined. He was 7/10 up going into the final section. He said, I was giving it absolutely everything. And then that downhill left-hander, he said, I really wanted to get the drive on early. And he said the back end just stepped out, and it all so close to coming and flipping me over the high side. He said, but I saved it. You know, I got away with it. And, you know, in his previous lap, he was already on pole. Lunetta, on the other hand, he'd set his time early. He said, you know, that was the plan. Go out early because we didn't know what was. It was a very hot day. Thought the tyres might go off late in the session, and they appeared to really to do that. Lunetta put his time in early and then just let the others get on with it. He said, I then went out and just rode round on my own, wanting to be on my own, wanting to learn the track and know what I was doing on my own. And he said, I let the others get on with it. So he did get deposed by Farioli and Piqueras late in the qualifying there, but he's still on the front row.
We do have here at the bottom of our screens then pit lane to be opened for 8 minutes at 5:30. So what does that mean? That means riders will be going for out laps. They will be doing various laps around. They'll probably come back. They have to come back through pit lane. They can't just pass directly over start and finish line. And then they can go out again for another sighting lap. And that'll be the reason why that'll be is because you've only had not just dry running, but sizzling heat running here so far in Mugello. Give riders a bit of a chance to just suss out what the grip is like out there on circuit in these kind of conditions, because there's going to be no doubt about what the conditions will be throughout this race now, will there?
Yeah, that's right. It is. It's still raining. It's not pouring down, but it's a sort of a steady rain. It's going to certainly soak the track. But of course, the guys have got plenty of experience in the wet on those tyres, even the newcomers to the Rookies Cup, because we had soaking wet pre-season test days, and even, you know, at the first Grand Prix weekend in Portimao, we had plenty of wet track time as well. So although they've not had wet time here in Mugello, they've got plenty of experience already this year on the wet tyres.
Yeah, exactly that, and not least to say all their other championships that they compete in as well, from the European Talent Cup to the Junior GP. I think after the very first race that we had of the season in Rookies Cup at Portimao, they went a couple of hours up the coast to Lisbon, to Estoril, where they all had their FIM Junior GP test there, and it was pouring with rain there as well, so they're more than used to this. The only problem is, of course, the fans will be getting absolutely soaked as well. Not that many of them will care with the amount of food and perhaps alcoholic beverages they've been consuming so far today.
Indeed, indeed. Just going back to the Lunetta Farioli thing, you know, they both on the front row of the grid, separated by the Spaniard Piqueras, and Lunetta says they're great mates. They've all through their careers, or, you know, the last sort of 3 or 4 years of their careers, they've been fighting each other. They've had plenty of battles. They were in Pre-Moto 3 together. Lunetta won the Italian Pre-Moto 3 championship, I think it was back in 2019, and Farioli was third. They had battles then, and they've had battlers in various championships since. He said that we really enjoy it, we have a great time, and we're looking forward to 2 fantastic races. So that's a great twist on that.
And I think those guys also hang around with Demi Mihaila as well, who happens to be starting from 5th on the grid here to do. I've seen them guys quite chummy with each other. Actually, to be honest, I think Lunetta and Mihaila actually kind of look like long-lost brothers or cousins, perhaps. They've got quite similar-looking fellas. Good to see lots of these riders, all their fellow countrymen, and even the riders that are just from individual countries as well. Looking at Rouchet as well, and also Rico, Salmela. You got a South African rider and a Finnish rider. They're all friends with each other. Proper camaraderie between the rookies, isn't there? Yeah,
it is. And, you know, and it's the huge number of nations that we have in Rookies Cup. It's one of the great things about it, and they all get along. They whether it be speaking a bit of English, a bit of Spanish, a bit of sign language, and that they do manage to communicate very, very well. So we'll soon see these guys out. The pit lane's going to open in just a few seconds, and then, as Matt says, we expect them to do a couple of laps. They've got to pass through the pit lane, as he says. They can't go zooming across the start and finish line. If they go onto the start and finish line, they will have to stop, I believe. Anyway, yeah. We'll see. We'll soon see what's going to happen.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, then. I mean, who do you think this is really going to favour, to be honest, these sorts of conditions? Because I'm thinking of the guys like Aditama and Sherrill as well. Also, the likes of Casey O'Gorman, Eddie O'Shea, riders who are used to actually riding in these sorts of wet conditions, where they're from, what they've grown up around. are the Spaniards going to be coping with this very well, really?
Yeah, I think they've got you know, most of the Spanish have got a wide variety of experience, haven't they, Matt? Even though, as you say, you know, it's a country where they do most of their racing in the dry, but they've got a lot of experience. I know that Cormac Buchanan was praying for a wet race. He was really quick in the difficult conditions we had at the pre-season tests, and then of course he missed the Portimao race because he got COVID and had to sit that one out, and that was a tremendous disappointment to him. But he's certainly going to be enjoying the wet conditions here this afternoon.
Certainly helps it, doesn't it? The New Zealander there, as we see. Well, what about Lorenz Luciano as well, a Belgian? The Belgians aren't exactly shy of a bit of wet weather, are they? Absolutely. So, yeah, I think it's a real step into the unknown, this one. I mean, Mugello is always good value for money racing, as always in Rookies Cup. But we saw a little preview of it yesterday in qualifying. I think only a few riders were able to actually put in laps by themselves. Other than that, was this huge group, everyone following each other. I think that's why Farioli couldn't go even quicker than he did, frankly, as well. So a preview of what's to come. Will we see the race actually won by a slipstream effect onto the final lap? A few riders crossing the line, fanning out. Who knows? Will someone do a Jorge Martin disappearing act effect? Yeah,
I mean, we know better than to try and predict things in Rookies Cup, don't we? But you know, the conditions like this can break things up quite a lot, and it'll be interesting to see how our Cup points leader Jose Rueda manages in the wet conditions. He's good enough to be quick in any conditions, but of course he's one of the guys for whom Mugello is new. And so he's learnt it in the dry, but tracks, of course, are different when it comes to the wet, where the sort of damp patches are. At least there's no standing water here. That's not a problem. You can see it's wet all the way around, but it's only wet, and there's no huge puddles or streams of water running across the track.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Only a handful of riders have actually been to Mugello before. I had got a good chat with quite a lot of them, actually, well, about a completely different topic, about social media on Thursday, and I asked, at one point I did ask them, I said, guys, how excited are you actually to be here in Mugello? I suppose you've all grown up watching racing. Of course, you wouldn't be here otherwise. What are your favourite memories from it? And they talk about the likes of Valentino Rossi and taking all his victories. Marquez versus Lorenzo, perhaps more fresh in the memory for these guys from 2016. Petrucci's win in 2019. And they're so happy to be here, to ride here for the first time. But that's crucial because they don't know what it's like here before in any other conditions than the dry that they've experienced so far.
Yeah, that's right. OK, so you can see that they are coming down the pit lane now. They're not crossing the start and finish, so they'll go out and make another lap, and I would think that that's probably it. Then they'll make just the 2 sighting laps and then come around onto the grid. I don't think they'll have time for a third. Anyway, a couple of sighting laps should let them know where the damp patches are, where the dry line is. And I could see, actually, although it is pretty soaking wet, there are a couple of places where it hasn't rained so much, and of course it's so hilly here, you're going to get places where, you know, the rain has been heavier than in other spots.
Yeah, absolutely. Such a localised weather systems that you get in Mugello with those rolling Tuscan hills, etc. I think you're absolutely right, Peter, about just one other sighting lap. We've nearly had 4 minutes of open pit lane already, and they've just done 1 lap. I'm pretty sure they've been instructed very, very sternly, no heroics on your sighting laps at all. No one pushing any sorts of limits whatsoever. I think they'll be going a much quicker pace than this, won't they? But they're just seeing probably where it's wetter in places than others, a bit more, not necessarily standing water, but the volume of water being pushed out by those Dunlop wets is more significant than others. Yeah, that's right, exactly. And of course they're going to carry on learning once the race gets started, because they're going to be lapping quicker than this. Of course, it's really difficult to know how much to push on a sighting lap like this in these tricky conditions. We always, you know, really have a bit of a laugh at anyone who falls off in these conditions. You really shouldn't be doing that. But on the other hand, you know, how do you test the limit? You're trying to find out how quickly you can go. It's a very, very difficult thing to do. Yeah, it's much more difficult to be judging the levels of grip with the application of the throttle as well. Much less grip at the end there, and also learning how late you can really brake and how much you can squeeze the front brake as well before the front end tucks and locks. It's a real new challenge for them, and whilst these guys are the best of the best pre-World Championship level per se, they're still young budding athletes. They're still learning about motorcycle racing in general and the handling of it. I mean, you always do, it's a never-ending journey, isn't it? But they are at that very early stage still.
I think you made a very good point, Matt, when you were talking to me earlier about, you know, you giving them that social media lecture, and you were reminded, looking at them, that, you know, on the one hand we think of them as young professional motorcycle racers, on the other hand they're just kids who otherwise would be sitting in a classroom at school.
Yeah, exactly, and I'm sure some still do, to be fair, and they're still giving it one night. It was very funny chatting to them all. Yeah, exactly, and that's part of the, they're still at that proper fun age, aren't they? Colin Fire, we're on board with him at the moment. Bit of drama around him after qualifying, and well, a dramatic day yesterday. He had a big crash. He got some burns on his neck, didn't he? But otherwise okay. What happened in qualifying? Well,
as you say, he had a monster crash in the first session there. Really sort of tumbled himself out, was very stiff, and that for FP2 and then for qualifying. He said, I couldn't really look around to see who was around me. I couldn't move, and unfortunately he got penalised because some inconsistency, or, you know, I wouldn't say quite. Oh, they're going through the pit lane again. That's just to prove us wrong. There we go. You know, he was inconsistent riding and you know, touching almost on the dangerous. He has been, instead of going off the second row of the grid, he in fact will start at the back of the grid and has to do a long lap penalty as well. So, you know, the race direction taking a very dim view of what Colin was getting up to in qualifying there.
Real shame actually though, because of course qualifying 5th in the actual session itself, that was a great starting position. Also a real show that his confidence didn't dip after what was quite a nasty crash in the free practice sessions, as Eddie O'Shea saying he's got a problem with his clutch to one of the mechanics. Unfortunately, he needs some help there, so his clutch is clearly not working. Is that right?
It looks yeah. I would say that's what he's trying to tell us. Yeah, the clutch. Yeah, it's gone completely. Of course, they can't fix it there. He's going to have to. He's going to have to go back into the pit lane, and he'll be starting from the pit lane, I think.
His eyes completely on stalks there. I mean, if your adrenaline isn't pumping as much as it is usually, I mean, it certainly will when you've got a bike issue as well. Trying to get into his position as much as possible, quickly as possible, I should say. But back to Fire. Yeah, I mean, he had a big high side. The rookies that follow him said, "Gosh, that was one of the biggest high sides I've seen." He told me earlier this morning that was his only crash of the year so far, and it's one where he got a couple of burns on his neck and things like that. He's not feeling in tip-top condition, but great to have actually technically qualified in 5th, because that shows, well, didn't dip his confidence one little bit.
No, indeed, indeed, and of course it was, you know, it wasn't his. It so damaged the bike that his own bike that it was a spare bike that he was riding. Well, so they have to sort that out, and it's never quite the same. So
no,
you know, that's impressive in itself.
But where have we heard that before? When he won, do you remember?
Yeah,
so,
indeed. Just while we're talking about swapping bikes, I think that is what 8-Ball Eddie will have to do. I don't. My guess is that they'll have a look at repairing that clutch, but the chances are that he's going to have to swap motorcycles. So the incredible Rookies Cup crew here, they're a Spanish crew of the professionals there, will jump to it, and once having checked that they can't fix it, which I suspect they won't be able to, they'll be swapping the fairings and all that sort of, and getting a spare motorcycle ready for him.
Well, then that'll be a shame for Eddie O'Shea. He's not able to use his preferred motorcycle. But as we look at Colin Fire there, of course, he did get that win in race 2 in Portugal, as Eddie's bike is being, yes, that is the spare motorcycle, isn't it, being prepared for him. Then numbers going on for him. That's the rider coach just telling him how to keep calm, because these sorts of moments, this is where a rider does something silly, isn't it, really?
Well, that's right. You know, and as you know, we're talking before, they still are young guys. Some of them come with a lot of experience, others less so, and it's just these sort of things that are testing for them. And as you say, Danny Revolta will be telling Eddie to keep it calm, just you know, don't overstep the mark.
Pedro Costa there, 2020 champion, of course, in the Red Bull Rookies Cup, Moto3 World Champion last year. Won't spoil where he finished today in Moto2 qualifying, but he's got a smile on his face, so make of that what you will. Riders coming now to the grid as Eddie O'Shea shakes his head, but hey, that's the type of thing where you can shake your head, Eddie, but come on, you got to do this. It is what it is, the situation. You got to get back on the horse, give it all you've got.
My guess is that he's going to be starting from pit lane there. They've already come around to the grid, and I don't think he's going to be able to join the grid. My feeling is that he will start from the pit lane, but the rest of the guys are forming up on the grid.
He was due to be starting in 13th on the grid here today on the 5th row, so there should be a blank spot there now, unfortunately. But this is a special moment, of course. The number 77 of Filippo Farioli heads to pole position here at his home race in Mugello. He will be, well, rather nervous ahead of this one, I suppose. Luca Lunetta, they're very much the same on the outside of the front row of the grid. They're sandwiching Angel Piqueras, the Spaniard, who actually occupies 7th in the overall standings. He got his first podium last time out in Jerez as well, race 1. What can he do? Will he be spoiling the Italian fiesta, I should say, even though it's a Spanish word today?
To me, it's quite interesting that the you know, that pole is on the right-hand side of the grid here. Of course, it's the first corner is a left-hander, but it's actually no corner at all. It's all just flat out over the hill there into the very, very tight right. But of course, then also there's enough of a run down to the first corner where they don't have to stay anything like on the same side of the track where they start. But pole on the right-hand side of the track. There's the 18 machine of Angel Piqueras, the 15-year-old Spaniard. He stands 7th in the points at the moment, so he's going to look forward to picking up on that. And in fact, you know, the frontline guys, Farioli is 11th, Piqueras is 7th, and Lunetta 5th. So the guys who lead the points at the moment is Jose Rueda, who's qualified 4th, and the second place in the points is Colin Fire, and we know now he's right at the back. And 3rd is Casey O'Gorman, and he completes the second row of the grid, having he qualified 7th, but he was moved up to 6th by Colin Fire being pushed to the back.
See on the bottom of your screens there then, there'll be a long lap penalty for Somogorba, the Hungarian rider in the race, for some irresponsible riding as well. That means that both him and Fire will have long lap penalties to contend with. Casey O'Gorman, as you mentioned, 3rd in the standing, starts from 6th on the grid at the outside of the second row. He had a bit of a dramatic start to the weekend, didn't he? Because his flight was cancelled last minute. He had to drive here with the family. I mean, goodness me. Talk about lack of sleep, at least for his family as well. Let's take a look at the full grid then, as we look at this beautiful shot from the start of the grid. A few moments to go before we go racing, 3 minutes. So it is Farioli starting from pole position with Piqueras alongside him and Lunetta on the outside the front row. Rueda, Mihaila and O'Gorman are row 2. Row 3 is Charil, Saumela and Gorba. Somogorba will be very happy with that one, I should imagine, as we see irresponsible riding, long lap penalty for 95 Fire. Row 4 is Brasserie from Aditama and Gabon Plon. And then row 5, O'Shea, although he'll be starting from pit lane, Luciano and Marcos Ruda there alongside him. Max Keeles heads to 6th row of the grid, ahead of Buchanan and Rosenthaler, with Moodley, Rollstoner and Mizera row 7. Venturini, Moreno and Fire last on the grid as we get going. Well, finally, we're going racing, Peter.
We are indeed, and just to be clear, that Sommer's long lap penalty came from things he did at the last race in Jerez, as you say, responsible riding.
Yeah, there we go, that's it. It's carried over from the last race. The best part of the wet weather, of course, Peter, is these clear visors on their HJC helmets. We'll be seeing all of the concentration, all of the action there. As we see, there is a blank spot on 13th on the grid for Eddie O'Shea. He'll be starting from pit lane. Yeah, OK, so... you know, that won't be too much of a disadvantage. Of course, it's not where you want to be starting from. No. But, you know, he was coming anyway from the 5th row, so they'll bunch up into the first corner there. And his mechanic just making sure, that, in fact, I think it was Roma there, just making sure there was no water dripping off the underneath of the fairing. Well, and off they go then on the warm-up lap. Here we are.
Indeed.
This will be a bit more like race speed, won't it, I assume, rather than the sighting laps?
Well, yeah, they're still testing, aren't they? And it'll be very interesting to see just who gets brave here. And, in fact, it's 93 RB Aditama who gets brave and heads out in front there, the 16-year-old Indonesian. I don't know how much experience an Indonesian has of riding in the rain. I guess, you know, if it rains in Indonesia, it rains hard, doesn't it?
Much harder than this. He's more than used to that. He's probably thinking, God, I want to take slicks out. That's how much it rains in Indonesia sometimes, eh?
Yeah, indeed. And he's now been relegated to second place by the 77, of course, is Filippo Farioli, our pole man. So he is keen to just see how quickly he can push it. He said, you know, what I'll try and do is break away, because I was talking to him assuming it was going to be a dry race. He said, I'll try and break away at the front. I know that it isn't going to be easy. And obviously, you know, he's already just testing how quickly he can go.
Interestingly enough, though, looking at the weather forecast, I mean, it's now rained throughout the evening and the night until early morning, around about 9 AM local time. So when these guys go racing for race 2 of Mugello tomorrow. It should actually be dry, but it'll be significantly cooler than what they were doing riding in yesterday. 35 degrees ambient temperature, over 50 degrees track temperature. I mean, goodness me, it was taxing work for them out there yesterday.
And of course, just to correct myself, I think there's every chance actually that 8-Ball Eddie will be able to take up his position on the grid. Normally we see these things, they come around with some kind of a problem and they're coming to the grid to start the race, and of course it wasn't.
We have actually got on our timing screens there, I just noticed it popped up, starting warm-up lap from pit lane, so it could well be, yeah, he's allowed to take his place there. So not such a disaster.
No,
for Eddie.
indeed, no disaster at all. I mean, and of course the fact that the circuit is damp, it means that the bike settings will not be so super critical or so super accurate. You know, they're all going to have a bit of experimentation here. So if the bike isn't perfect, that may not be any tougher than for anybody else. And there's the 99 machine of Jose Rueda. He's a points leader. He's scored a win, a second, a first and a third in the 4 races, and of course he in fact crossed the line first 3 times but was relegated for exceeding track limits on the last lap. So he's still a man very much to beat, but he's starting now from the second row of the grid, having qualified 4th.
Well, as they come around there to take their places on the grid, I do want to give a quick shout out to Harrison Voigt and Freddie Heinrich. Neither of them are here for injuries sustained in either previous outings that we had from Freddie Heinrich. Harry Voigt injured in a junior GP round, unfortunately no racing for him, so wishing them both very well indeed. Harry, the Lotus Biscoff biscuits are waiting for you. I brought them especially for him, he loves those, so yes, we'll see them very soon.
And it's great that we've got an onboard from Colin Fire
yeah, it'll be great,
at the back of the grid there. You know, we're going to just see how quickly he can cut his way through, and being Dutch, as you said, the Belgian will throw that at the Dutch
true,
as well.
yeah.
Also, they should be good in the wet, shouldn't they?
Absolutely, yeah. It lives at home in the Netherlands as well, so more than used to a spot of wet weather, of course. So how can he get on? That'll be a cracking onboard to watch back at the end of the race later today.
We'll just see if we can see a picture of the grid and see if 8-Ball Eddie is taking up. No, I think the place is empty on the grid.
It's empty, yeah. Oh, no, he's from the back of the grid there, in the pink helmet.
All right, okay. Oh, there are 2 pink helmets. Anyway, we'll soon see. Okay. Right, we're coming under starters orders now for a shortened Red Bull MotoGP Rookies Cup race here at Mugello. The lights are on, they're off, and who makes a good start? Pretty much all, yes, I think it's Piqueras who advantage on the number 18 machine. He got rolling, and Filippo Ferrari has been caught up in the group a bit, but it's Piqueras on the 18 machine who has the advantage. You can see the number 5 of Tachikon Boasri there. He's well placed. He goes up the inside into second place. Does he in fact take the lead? Yes, I think it is Boasri. Is he going to drift wide? No, it's Tachikon Boasri who has the advantage as they go up the hill, but it's his run at the front was brief.
O'Gorman. O'Gorman has gone into the lead. Goodness me. Hey, we didn't even mention Tachikon Boasri from 10th on the grid. The tie rider, he knows what it's like to race in these sorts of conditions as well. He's brilliant in them from his Asia Talent Cup days.
Yeah, and O'Gorman showing us just how well he is in the wet as well. And of course, he was sensational in the wet in Portugal. Absolutely brilliant. And we were surprised, in fact, about how well he did in the dry, because he'd been so dominant in the wet.
Well, there he is, the 3rd place rider in the championship standings then. 2 5th places last time out in RF, 2 podiums in Portugal as well, and here he is in the lead now at Mugello. That's got to be special.
Yeah, and downhill he goes with an advantage, and it is breaking things up. That's the 5th number 5 machine of Tachikon Boasri in 3rd place, running a bit wide there, trying to keep it off the paint. But Casey O'Gorman looking absolutely superb, the 14-year-old Irishman.
And we've got Gabor Plonk chasing him from 2nd place, the French rider as well. What's happened to our pole sitter Farioli? There he is, ahead of the number 57 of, well, that's not the 57 of Piqueras. There, Piqueras is actually behind him. So that is Farioli. Not such a bad start from him.
Right, and there's a 93 machine of Arvi Aditamar. So he looked good early on. He's dropped back a little bit, but it really is Casey O'Gorman and Gavin Planck who are looking. Oh, and we've got a faller there at the back.
That's Farioli. It's Farioli who's gone down in the back there. So a disaster for him. The pole sitter. Oh, he'll be gutted with that.
Absolutely.
Oh, he's absolutely filthy as well, isn't he?
Yeah, it is. Okay, so this is back with the leaders. It's so O'Gorman being chased by Planck. They've already got a 2.7 second advantage over the chasing pack. Well, it's a chasing single, actually. It's Boasri on the number 5, and then Aditamar and Piqueras and Chies, and there is the pole sitter. He's got to keep it cool. He can't afford another fall. If he just keeps it cool, just calm down for at least half a lap, get yourself back under control. And there is the race leader then, the 67 machine of Irish 14-year-old Casey O'Gorman, ahead of the 48 of Gavin Plant, the 17-year-old Frenchman.
Do you know what he smelled in the air when the rain started coming over? Opportunity, did Casey O'Gorman. A rider, the Irish rider, well, more than used to riding in a bit of rain, of course, as well. Formerly in the British Talent Cup. He's not afraid of these sorts of conditions whatsoever. Number 57 there, Daniel Sherrill, Malaysian. He knows exactly what it's like to ride in pouring rain as well. Rico Salmela, the Finnish rider too. Cormac Buchanan up there. Just opportunity all round for some of these riders who perhaps in the dry won't be expecting such a higher result at this stage in their championship. What a ride this is so far.
Indeed, as you say, they're running sort of 8th, 9th and 10th, Salmela, Buchanan and that, so they're very much into the points battle here. But these are the leaders. It is Casey O'Gorman, and he's got Plant right on his tail. I wonder what Plant will do. Interesting, because he knows that he should be aware that they're setting a quick enough pace to get away from the group, and at the moment Gavin doesn't have to lead. He can just let Casey do it, but as I say that, of course, he goes around the outside and takes the advantage. So it is now the Frenchman on the 48, Gavin Plant, the 17-year-old, who has the advantage. Casey O'Gorman right on his tail, and they're well ahead of Taxacorn Boasri on the number 5, the Thai rider.
Well, we'll see how the race progresses then with 14 laps, though. This is a great little battle between the Frenchman and the Irishman, because Adetama and Sherrill, I'm really going to keep an eye on them. If it rains any more, it gets any worse, that could be prime conditions for them. Doesn't look like it's raining anymore, though, at the moment. I don't think it's going to be drying, however. It's quite humid, but it's not exactly the sun beating down yet.
No, it isn't, is it? And it's, you know, the track is cold. We've had, as you said, enough rain through the day on and off to keep the track temperature down, so it's not going to dry out very quickly. We might have a slight dry line, but it's basically is a well and truly a wet race, even though, you know, it's not chucking it down at the moment.
Buchanan's moved up to 6th there as well. And also worth noting, we talked about it on the sighting laps. How will the Spaniards and the Italians fare in this? Where you just saw Marcus Ruda and Jose Reda move down. Oh, the number 21's gone. Oh dear, well, I was about to mention him as well. Down from 5th on the grid. He was way down just inside the top 20. Clearly not a fan of these conditions, and he's succumbed to them right there.
Well, yes, I mean, he's parked the motorcycle. I didn't see any damage on it. Of course, you know, technical problems are very rare on these KTMs, but it's just possible that he had some sort of trouble and has pulled off the track. But these are the leaders then. It is the Frenchman and the Irishman, and Casey spreads out across the track there. He's not looking for a slipstream. He's looking to run on the other side of the track, and comes across again. Side by side there on the brakes. Who's going to be brave? There's no reason for either of them to be super brave here. They're well ahead of the opposition. They've got a 4-second advantage, and they just need to keep reeling off these laps, not making any mistakes, and keep prodding themselves. And that's the 95 of Colin Fire, and Colin has crossed the line
16th.
16th, yes. So he's come off the back of the grid. He's already working hard, but he's still got plenty of work to do.
What's this? Fire going wide, is it? Oh, long lap penalty lane. Yeah. There you go, with Somogorba as well. Good job, lads. Well done. I mean, in 4th place, if we cast our eyes there, the number 28 of Max Keeles has come through from 16th on the grid, Peter. He's a young Spaniard. I didn't think well, judging by how Rueda's doing, for example, how the Italians have plummeted down there, I wasn't quite sure how well he'd be doing in these sorts of conditions. But look at that, up into 4th position after his victory last time out in Jerez.
Yeah, I think, you know, the truth is that anybody who's a real star can ride in any conditions. Of course, they've got to get used to it, but he's just proving that it doesn't take him very long to get used to it.
Yeah, exactly that. And he is a proper little budding star as well, isn't he? Max Keeles doing the business in not just here, but the European Talent Cup as well, where he's reigning champion. It's raining even more. It is, and as we said before, you know, it's raining more in some places and less in others. And as we talked about, that Chies moves up ahead of Adetama into 5th place. Buchanan has moved all the way up into 4th as well, so the New Zealander, who really wanted some rain there. Very, very happy with that. Brasri into third too, still maintaining that. But what's the gap now? 3 seconds back to Kilos when they crossed the line last time around. It's only 2 seconds separating Buchanan and Brasri now.
Yeah, now on the other hand, these two are still lapping quicker than the guys behind them. They're in the 31, 32s, and the guys behind them 33s, 34s. So these guys just don't have to do anything silly. And you look, you know, over your shoulder there, you saw Casey O'Gorman, he looked over his shoulder to check how far they are behind. Of course, they really should be getting good pit signals and shouldn't be looking behind. There's the number 8
Eddie
and the rest of the
O'Shea
pack
up to
coming
12th.
through.
And that's Rueda. That's the series leader. There he is, down in 15th.
Yeah, and that's right. So, you know, fantastic for the Cup, of course. We don't want any runaway winners, and to have some different guys at the front there is really going to do you know, an awful lot of good to the points battle.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, really good point, that. And it's not just, also even more so, just preparing them for more situations that are inevitably going to come up in their careers so far. Rueda, maybe he needs to have this wet race to learn how to manage it.
And, you know, Plunk put in another fastest lap of the race, but that was bettered by Buchanan immediately, who's in 4th place.
Wow.
And is you know, 3 or 4 tenths quicker than the leaders.
Yeah, only rider into the 2-minute 30-second lap times at the moment is Buchanan. He's moved up into 3rd then. He's overtaken Tachikon Brasri. This is brilliant stuff. I'm wondering, Peter, what do you think? Gabon Plonk is the most experienced rider on the grid. This is, what, his 3rd, 4th season in rookies now. Is this experience coming through?
Well, I think it is. You know, he has experience. As I say, it's his sort of nominally his 4th season, but he missed the entire last year because of an early season injury, which was outside of the Rookies Cup. So it's his 3rd, you know, proper year, but he has the experience and he's showing that now. And, you know, it is raining heavily in some parts of the track. It's raining really heavily, so the conditions changing all the time, and whereas it's just looking wet in some places, it's actually, you know, very, very soaking wet in a couple of places.
Do you know what? There is such a long way to go in this race still, with 2-minute 30 lap times. 2 laps is 5 minutes. I mean, you could do the maths yourselves. Buchanan might actually catch these guys now. It's 7 seconds the gap at the moment, but we could have our duet become a trio not before long.
Well, that's right. And the thing from, of course, from Buchanan and that is that not to get carried away. You know, you've just got to get into the groove, and a little bit of a nasty moment there for our leader, because he had a nasty slide, got way offline, and perhaps he's pushing on a little bit too much, but he's not going to do any more of that. But Gabin Planck had a really nasty moment there, as I think was lucky to get away with it.
Looking down the timing screens, it's Malaysia versus Indonesia for 6th place, with Sharil overcoming Adatama for the moment, so they've got a good little battle on there. 3 seconds adrift from Keeles in 5th at the moment then, who still hasn't got an answer for anyone like Buchanan, but Keeles is now only 0.2 behind Tactical Brasri. Buchanan in half a lap has pulled 1.9 seconds on Brasri, the tyre rider. That's brilliant.
Well, and I think he's taken half a second out of these guys as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, and it's a sort of but it's still asking a lot. Let's just see what the gap is now. It was 8 seconds on the last lap. We're waiting. It's 6 seconds. So,
wow.
Well, it's come down way. It took well over
2
a second.
seconds.
You know, the best part of 2 seconds out of them in one lap. And Planck is running wide again there. So they've obviously not got a lot of pace up their sleeve. They're going as quick as they want to, and Cormac Buchanan is closing in on them dramatically.
This is
and down it goes.
gone. It's too much. They're clearly going over the limit beyond that. Dearie me, that was an uncomfortable one. He'll be gutted.
He will, but, you know, he had the warning. I mean, we pointed out twice he was lucky to get away with it, and it wasn't a lucky 3rd time. Now, this has surely got to be a warning for Casey O'Gorman. He's now being chased by Cormac Buchanan, who set another fastest lap. You know, Planck, and they went round at 2:30s, and Buchanan did a 2:28.8, so he took another second out of them in that lap. And Buchanan is closing on the leader. He's up into 2nd place, and we'll see now Gabin Planck's exit from the Rookies Cup race at Mugello.
He was wide, wasn't he? And rear end stepped out, and over he went, unfortunately, and out.
I mean, as I say, you know, that was the 3rd warning he got in half a lap there, and in the end it just caught him out. So it's O'Gorman, Buchanan. Kies is also quick, but it is the fastest man on the circuit is the Kiwi, the number 14 of Cormac Buchanan.
Casey O'Gorman taking a long look behind him there. He's not going to see anybody, well, just yet. Maybe if he looks behind now, he'll start to see Buchanan. 2.1 seconds he was quicker than last time around. What is the gap at the second split? It's now 4 seconds. So Buchanan, well, he would have seen Plonk at the side of the track there, but he's still not letting up. He sees the opportunity. He smelt it in the air, and he wants this first victory.
He's got to be wise, hasn't he? Because he's still got 11, 10 laps to go.
Yeah.
He's only a third of the way through this race. He's closing on the leader dramatically. He's just got to keep it cool, keep that groove that he's established going, and there's no doubt he's going to catch the leader if he doesn't make any mistakes.
Behind them, though, Quiles has taken Boisry. Them two lapping together now. They're separated by 0.3 of a second, so Quiles has moved up into a podium position. That will do his championship absolute wonders. Meanwhile, O'Gorman, potentially a long way to go, but taking victory would do his series prospects wonders as well, overtaking Fire and perhaps Rueda, depending how his race goes as well.
And as they flash across the line now, it's down under 4 seconds. A 32 for O'Gorman, a 29.9. A high. He's over 2 seconds a lap quicker, is Cormac Buchanan, than the leader, Casey O'Gorman.
Goodness me, so that is very, very fast indeed. New Zealand are very much used to it. This is an unexpected performance, though, from Max Quiles, I've got to say. I mean, the pocket rocket, managing these conditions for the moment. I really don't want to jinx him, but he's managing them rather well indeed. With Boisry behind him, we've got to go speak to him afterwards. I mean, where has he learned the racecraft in these wet conditions with guys? He's got a Thai behind him, a New Zealander in front of him, and an Irishman out front, and he's given it to them. This guy can't have seen much wet weather riding previously in his career.
No, he is, as you say, and but skill will out, and he's showing us just how tremendously skilled he was. And I asked him why he qualified so poorly. Actually, he was down, as you say, on the 6th row, 16th place, and he said, my best laps, I just kept exceeding track limits, and I kept losing my best laps. And he's well aware of that, because he was quick in practice, much quicker than his qualifying time position on the grid shows, but he lost those laps for exceeding track limits. And of course, it's not such a thing here in the wet, the whole track limits thing, but they've all got to be aware of that.
Yeah, absolutely, and as you can see from the green on the outskirts of the curbs there, it's quite easily done here at Mugello as the riders come up Arrabbiata 2 now, an iconic part of the circuit. It is just wonderful. Well, what is it? A proper trophy race, this one, if you win this, isn't it?
It is, isn't it? To win at Mugello is always something special. Now, the incredible thing is, and I desperately don't want to jinx him here, that Buchanan is lapping 2 seconds a lap quicker than anybody else.
It's Ruche Moodley who's gone down. Oh, dearie me, the South African. I was going to point him out earlier. His start was, he actually nearly fell off the side of the bike at the start of the race, right in front of O'Shea. He probably had to put his foot down, and that really muffled his start, but that's not ideal for him, but gladly, he's okay.
Yeah, and he may have just run off through, because I don't see any damage on either side of the machine. He's obviously gone off the track there, but he could have, of course, had a big slide and just done a touch of the straight-ons. But it's absolutely incredible, They're all on the same motorcycles. They're all riding with the same tyres, basically the same, very, very similar setup. So how on earth can Cormac be 2 seconds a lap quicker than anybody else?
Well, it looks like that Casey O'Gorman has well and truly responded. Maybe Cormac Buchanan's had a bit of a moment. Yeah. So it's a 2:29 for O'Gorman, a 2:30 for Buchanan. Over a second splitting the two of them, but nobody else can do a 2:30 at the moment. Some O'Gorman's got down. Oh, O'Gorman's down! He's thrown it away!
He responded. Matt, you said he responded.
And he's responded in the wrong way there at turn 1. But can he get it going again? Go on, because he's actually got such a gap, he can still get a good result. If he can get his bike running and going, he could do it. The marshals have just got to push him. Oh, he's telling him, no, you can't. His race is over. He's thrown it away. He can't believe it.
It just went around on him. The back stepped out, and he was down. I think he broke the seat there, but... yeah, what a tragedy for KTM, and he's so upset with himself.
Of course he is.
That's now Buchanan who has the lead on the number 14, and he's got a healthy advantage. He's got about a 5-second advantage over Quiles. We'll see now. He's just got to keep it cool, because he doesn't need to do anything crazy.
Oh, who's that down? No, it's Fire. Fire's down. Oh, dearie me.
So he's picked it up. Obviously, he's going to be able to get that going again. You're on board with him. You can see how he's got to push it back and turn around. He's going to get going again. He was 14th. He's now dropped to 15th. He still can pick up a couple of points if he gets himself sorted out. But let's see what happens here. Again,
the
it's
same
just
thing as Plonk nearly.
Yeah, that's right. And Casey, you know, that just a little bit. I mean, it doesn't go that far, but it's enough to flick them over the high side, and down they go.
And obviously, with all your experience as well, is that just essentially down to throttle control as we're talking to these conditions?
Yeah, it is, and they're just, you know, trying to push that bit harder and push that bit harder. All the people that done it, you know, they would have had the warnings before. We saw Gavin have his warnings, and I'm sure it's been slip-sliding around, and it was just as we suspected. And in fact, as you said, Matt, it was, you know, when Casey realised he was being caught, he responded. He cut like a second and a half off his own lap time. Suddenly, he was a second and a half quicker than he had been before, and it was too much.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as we look at Cormac Buchanan, though, something I do just want to point out, now please, I really don't want to jinx him, but last time out in Jerez, he got his first Red Bull Rookies points. He finished 12th, brought home 4 points. If he wins this, that's from 4 points to 25, and he's got a win.
That's right, and the thing is that, you know, as I said, he had COVID, and he came to Jerez thinking he'd recovered. Certainly, he was no longer, you know, in the sort of medical sense of the word, he didn't have it, wasn't going to pass it on to anybody, but he said he didn't realise until he got out there riding, especially racing, just that he was still affected by it. He hadn't, you know, physically recovered. It was a really tough thing for him to go through 2 races in Jerez.
At the moment, though, as we look into turn 1, a lap after Casey O'Gorman Binder's potential first Red Bull Rookies win, I'm sure plenty of opportunities will follow that thereafter. This is Quiles and Brasserie now fighting it for second place, and they got Daniel Sharil joining the party, the Malaysian, the number 57 behind them as well. Eddie O'Shea, from the back of the grid, has come to 5th place.
Incredible.
And he did actually start from the back of the grid, because I saw the number 8 come through. Goodness me, that's a performance and a half. So from shaking his head, thinking, it's stuffed, I can't do it, I can't do it, he's put in a great performance so far. This, though, Jose Rueda, where is he at the moment? 13th. So he's a beneficiary of a couple of those riders who have gone down. He's now in the points.
Yeah, and Colin Fire's down in 17th, so, you know, he's out of the points, and he's really got to, you know, try and cut back. And, you know, in a situation like this where Rueda's only down in 13th, you'd hope to really take some points out of him, but at the moment Colin Fire isn't managing to do that. How
significant are those 2 crashes then in terms of the championship? I mean, he's only going to get a couple of points, but O'Gorman's going to take none away. That's really going to dent things. He'll be hoping that Rueda can't do any better than this, really. Fire, well, he needs to fight to get a couple of points. It'll be even Stevens there roughly for him, just a couple more points deficit. So actually what we were looking at with Rueda being bumped down the order, actually he's kind of gotten away with it, isn't he? Well, yeah, at the moment.
You know, that's right, he has. I think it's, you know, Max Quies, it's what Quies does here. He sits 4th in the championship table on 46 points to 86 to Rueda. You know, he's got 40 points to catch up, but he's going to take a big chunk out of Rueda's lead if he carries on where he is.
Well, he's taken 0.3 of a second out of Buchanan from the last split there. But what about Daniel Sharil, the number 57, lurking there in the background? He was 1.2 seconds off Brasserie, his former Asia Talent Cup alumni. Well, his current Asia Talent Cup alumni, just ahead of him. That's 0.8 of a second quicker over 1 split, Peter. Sharil is coming for these 2 now.
Right, and, you know, we're waiting for an Italian winner. I think we're going to wait another day longer at least, because our first Italian is way down. Is it Lunetta in 11th? Yeah. So it's unlikely that he's going to make it. You know, that having come off the front, having 2 Italians on the front row of the grid, we thought it was all going to be very different.
This looks to be getting closer and closer, though, as Quiles runs wide on the run in towards San Donato, turn 1. Brasserie catches him right up there. The pair of them are actually catching Cormac Buchanan very, very slowly, but it might be too little too late. Buchanan, well, I haven't said that. I could be wrong, because Buchanan was 1.8 seconds slower than Brasserie last time around. So the chase is on again. Will the whole dynamic of this race change once more with 7 laps to go?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's difficult for Buchanan now. It's the first time he's ever led a Rookies Cup race. He's, you know, feeling the pressure. He's just got to keep keep it going, because he's now lapping in the high 31s, the high 31s, where he'd been down to the 29s. If he could just circulate in the 30s or the low 31s, he'd have this in the bag. But he's just got to keep it rolling and keep it smooth. And those guys are closing in on them. And as they close, then the pressure's going to increase when he sees that on a lap board.
At the end of the day, if he does potentially lose the win, he's responded because he's pulled out a bit more of a gap, actually. If he were to lose the win, heaven forbid, then it's still a fantastic result from him, a real great confidence boost. But a racer being a racer, he will really, really want this win. He'll be piling the pressure on himself. But I tell you what, who's not piling the pressure on himself and is really in the element? Cyril, right on the back of these two now. The Malaysian really also wants a Red Bull Rookies podium in his first season, so soon as well, given that we're at, what, round 3 now?
Yeah, that's right. We've only had 4 races out of the 14. Of course, we've heard that the finish round is off. We're now trying to sort out where we're going to fit in another Rookies Cup round in the remainder of the season, but we're pretty confident that we can do that, so we will have the 14 races that we expected. But anyway, back here live, very much, and you can see actually there is some now standing water on the track there, just in that very dodgy place here, as we have the little left-right flip coming back towards the last corner here. And it's all heating up in this battle for the second, and we'll see what's happened to that 6.7 second gap when they flash across the line, and it'll be 6 laps to go out of initial 15.
The only problem with commentating on these wet races, Peter, is that you want to really commend people, but you just don't want to give them a commentator's curse, do you? No. But I really do want to say how brilliantly is Max Quiles performing against these other 2 riders who surely have so much more experience and feel naturally in the wet, given where they've grown up. But Quiles just defending brilliantly. It looked like Brasserie was really honing in on him there, and unless he goes too wide here into turn 1, he likes a bit of a wider line in turn 1. He manages to keep it quite fast. Brasserie doesn't actually make all that many gains on him through there. It's really, really impressive, but I tell you who is making big gains is Cyril still, 0.8 of a second quicker than Buchanan, your leader last time around. That gap still holding firm. We'll see what it is now. It was 6.8 seconds. For Buchanan out front, it's now 7 seconds.
You know, and he's so Buchanan's done what we asked of him very quietly there. He's got.
No, he hasn't, because he's thrown it away. Another one. How many leaders want to throw it away? A first win. Oh, your heart breaks for them, Peter. Oh my goodness.
I did curse him, didn't I? I said he's done. We asked him to.
You did. That was your fault. So you've got to go and apologise to him.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, here's what happened. Oh, and he's lost the front end. Oh my goodness. So now that changes the dynamic entirely. It's 3 riders battling for the win now, and Buchanan, he's in tears. Of course he is, because that is heartbreaking. These are your riders battling for the lead of the race now with 6 laps to go.
Yeah, a bit speechless there. Max Quiles, Tetakorn Brasserie and Daniel Cyril. Okay.
Here we are.
Yeah, well.
Goodness me, I mean, by the way, another rider who's having... Oh, as Max Quiles, he nearly takes my commentator's curse and throws it at the scenery. I'm cautious of saying this, and look at the rider in 5th place, Piqueras. He wants to make big inroads, so he's getting more comfortable as the race goes on. I'm going to really nerd out tonight and look at all the lap charts and where the riders ended up in certain positions across the line, certain ones, their progression, because that's going to be fascinating to talk about in tomorrow's race.
I hate to say it, but we're getting to that stage where you kind of think that, you know, anyone who finishes this race is going to score a point, because at the moment we've only got 18 runners, and of course we've scored down to 15. And Raider, you know, it's playing to his hands, isn't it? Okay, Quiles is going to pick up some big points, but Raider, just with people falling off in front of him, now moves up to 12th place.
Yeah, well, if you got to be in it to win it. It's really that simple, isn't it? And unfortunately, 3 riders who were leading binned it, and that's such a heartbreaking fact. But it is one of those experiences that they'll get a lot of growth from going forward. They will remember this when they come back here. Should they make it to World Championship level, they'll remember that, and they'll have the chip on their shoulder. And it's Brasserie with a chip on his shoulder. He wants this win now. He's now made his bid for the lead. He's sat quietly behind Quiles for quite a while now. He's decided, with the win on the line, do you know what? I'm going to go for this.
Well, and do you think he's thought that with Cheryl coming behind, perhaps he knows that Cheryl knows what to do in the wet as well, and he feels that the way Cheryl closed in on them, perhaps he's got to try and get himself a bit of distance, and that's why he's chosen this moment to go past Max Chies and into the lead. Anyway, so he's got his head down now. He's going to try and break away from it. There are 5 laps to go. We're 2/3 of the way through this race. He is opening up that slight advantage over Max Chies. Max Chies being sensible enough not to take any chances. In fact, there he had a slide there. He had a warning and perhaps taken heed of that. And we've got another.
Who's that?
That's
Oh, it's Cheryl. It's Cheryl who's gone down. Well, that's it for him.
No,
He's out of the running. You can't believe it, can you? I was going to say, I was scrambling for my notes because I know Brasserie has got his first win in the Junior World Championship done and dusted this year. He won the very first race of the season in Estoril. Here's what happened to us. Oh, Cheryl, same place as Buchanan went down, but he lost the rear.
Yeah, indeed. And mostly, just say it's been that little step out at the rear that's done it. And just a tiny one, isn't it? You know, it looks so innocuous, but down they go. So that's...
Brasserie, though, he's looking for that, not just first win, but first podium of the season in Rookies Cup. Got a few podiums already in his short history. That was a warning. That lets Chies through once again then. So he's had a touch of the throttle, which nearly threw him over. That scared him a bit, but now he's got to regain his composure. We've still got 5 laps to go.
That's right, and they're all lapping in the 2:30s now, both. So that's really as quick as anyone can go. We did see Buchanan get into the 29s, but pretty much this is the limit, the 2:30s. And now with a warning that Brasserie has had, he's letting Chies, is he getting away from it? Now Chies has opened up a bit of an advantage.
This is Eddie O'Shea, of course, now in 3rd. I mean, he can't believe his luck, can he?
Yeah, he thought the world had ended with his clutch lead, but didn't he? You know, you could see the panic, the upset there. He thought the world has ended, but he's now in a podium position.
Whoever does win this, I'm choosing my words very carefully now for commentators' curses purposes, fully deserves a real pat on the back, and that is not position progression, because he's not gone up 10 places, he's gone up from the back of the grid. That is absolutely extraordinary stuff from Eddie O'Shea.
And Chies now has a 1.7 second advantage over Brasserie. He's you know, I wonder, we'll just not say who's doing well now, but it's actually Chies who lapped in the 1:30s again, and Brasserie dropped off to the 2:32s after he had that moment, which has served as a good warning for him. And you can see now the gap that Max has over his pursuer.
Well then, as we look down the order though as well, Aditama, the Indonesian rider, he's in 6th still. Salmela's ahead of him. Piqueras is in 4th. Behind them you've got the Austrian of Rosenthaler as well. So this number 78, Touchwood, having a great ride out. Lorenz Luciano, another rider who will be familiar with wet conditions, being from Belgium. He's in P8. Lunetta, top Italian, now moves up to 9th with those crashes ahead of him. Farioli has recovered from a crash earlier on to 11th place with Marcos Ruda ahead of him in 10th.
Yeah, and it's Colin Fire in 15th, so it does pick up a point, but his arch rival for the Cup, of course, is in 12th place, and they pick up a load more points.
It's going to be heartbreak for Rollstone and also the number 10 behind him of Moreno, who unfortunately will not be picking up any points as it stands at the moment. But as we've seen, anything can change at any given moment. I do wonder, with that moment, I think it was coming out of turn... coming out of turn 11, Pelagio for Brasserie, if he's just thought, you know, do you know what, Max Chies, you can have this win. Yeah. I want my first podium of the year.
Well, that's right, and he's had a couple of warnings. Chies there, he's lapping in the 2:30s, 2:32s for Brasserie. So Chies is pushing the limit. Brasserie, you know, should be more comfortable at that place. And as you say, he's just going to be very happy with the 2nd place and let Chies take the risks.
We've got under 10 minutes of racing left then for these are the riding style comparison, turns 13, 12, 13 and 14. So that would be coming out of Corintaio into Biondetti 1, Biondetti 2 and out of it again. And tell you what, they're going to be able to use these knee sliders again tomorrow, aren't they? Well, some of them anyway, the shorter ones.
They will do. OK, so there is your race leader, the 28 of Max Chies, a 14-year-old Spaniard, crosses the line now. There will be just 3 laps remaining. There it goes. And we'll see he's lapped again. It's very consistent now at 2:30.6. 2:34 for Bouazri behind him, so that gap will have gone up considerably, and very clearly, as you suggested, Matt, he is accepting the fact that the leader's gone, and O'Shea is closing.
Wow.
But there's still a...
Rapidly, though.
Yeah.
Goodness me,
Just
3
3
seconds.
laps, though.
Well, yes, true, but if he's up in 4 seconds a lap quicker, oh, my goodness. Well, Eddie O'Shea, a man on a mission. Thing is, though, that's what can happen in these sorts of rides, because the pressure's off when you're from the back of the grid.
Well, you kind of, that's right. If you have any feeling at all for it, you have the feeling that you can't make things worse, and he's certainly made things a whole lot better. But yeah, Bouazri there, 4 seconds almost slower than O'Shea.
And in one sector, he's half a second quicker than Bouazri now. So this could be an inspired last couple of laps from O'Shea. I mean, my goodness me. Here's a look at your series leader once again, though, because here's what's going to happen to the standings at the moment. But it's quite unlikely it will stay this way. It'll be 19 points separating Raider, Quiles and Vire at the moment then.
Yeah, that's right. You really think all these guys are going to finish? Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
Quickest laps of the race for themselves for Salmela and Piqueras. They're in 4th and 5th place behind O'Shea.
Marcus Ruder having a good run up ahead of Rueda, though. Ruder, number 69, of course, in P10 there. O'Shea and Bouazri gap is now down to 4.1 seconds. I do not really want to take my eyes off that, because that is changing sector by sector now. What are the lap times they're doing? Max Quiles is the only rider still, along with O'Shea, sorry, still able to run 2-minute 30s. The guys behind them, we've got 2:31s from Piqueras and Salmela. Salmela 12 seconds behind O'Shea. He's actually got Piqueras breathing down his neck now, has the pocket rocket thin.
Yeah, and you know, a 2:34 for Bouazri on the previous lap. Surely that's, you know, maybe there was a mistake in there. You know, relaxing by a further 2 seconds. It was okay. He was doing 2:32s, was in a relaxed state, but another 2 seconds slower. Surely that was points to some kind of an error on that previous lap. There's going to be 2 laps to go now as they cross the line. With Quiles has the advantage. We'll see whether he's keeping up that 2 minutes 30 pace and just what Bouazri can do about holding the advantage over O'Shea. It's going to be super tense for these last 2 laps here at Mugello.
5 minutes of racing left again then. Bouazri crosses the line. What is the gap to O'Shea? He looks at his pit board. He wants to know. That's crucial information for him. Was he rolling off a little bit too much, allowing O'Shea to catch him? Has he responded? He has. 2/10 of a second quicker that time around. So Bouazri, touching wood, he knows what these conditions are like. He knows, relatively speaking, where the limit is. But O'Shea, that last time around, overall, he was still 2.5 seconds quicker than Bouazri there.
Right, and these guys, you know, the tyres, they're going to be past their best, perhaps, but there's plenty of water around. There's certainly not been overheating. There's still really good wet weather tyres, these. It's only 15 laps at Mugello, not a particularly dramatically harsh surface on them, and there's water everywhere, as to say, there's no overheating. So really, these guys should now know just how much grip they've got, how hard they can push it.
And it's not really going to change all that much in under 5 minutes as well. That's absolutely right. I mean, this race, this is where motorcycle racing turns from a near sort of sprint sport, sort of a 10k, 5k effort level sport if you're a runner, to a proper endurance sport, isn't it? 2.5 minutes a lap, and all that concentration, managing your stress levels and things like that. I mean, hats off to these guys. They've really earned a good night's kip tonight.
And as you say, the pressure now really is on O'Shea, I think, because he knows he's only got a lap and a half to go. He can see that there's still a big gap ahead. So what does he do? Is he going to go for it, go for second, or just take his first podium?
I wonder if this is the case where he's a Red Bull rookie. He's going to try and actually get second place, but actually if he was a few years older in a World Championship, he might recognise that P3, your first rookie's podium, is more than good enough.
So Max Quiles then, you know, we've given up worrying about cursing the guys. He's last lap at 2:31.3. He has done 2:30s, a string of 2:30s. He can afford to ease off a little bit because he's still going quicker than Bouazri, and he's coming down. He's just got a few corners more than a single lap to claim this victory.
He's got to properly ride within himself this final lap. He comes out of the Biondetti chicane into the final turn at Buccine. I probably just butchered that particular pronunciation, but here he comes then. He can afford to lose 7 seconds in this final lap then, and the victory is his. Easy does it, Max.
And Bouazri there has just managing to hold the advantage over O'Shea. There's now just a lap, and surely he isn't going to lose almost 6 seconds in the one lap.
You'd certainly hope not. And it's a battle of the Italians for top Italian in the standings. P9 Farioli's now gotten to. After crashing, he's overtaken Lanetta for that particular spot. Good on him.
Yeah, and here we are. Here's the leader then. Let's just watch him. Max Chies, the 14-year-old. As you said, Matt, you really wonder where, at only 14 years of age and having come from Spain, that he's got the experience to master the conditions. But touch wood, master is the way we would, the term we would use this afternoon, because he's riding absolutely superbly. He's just got 2/3 of a lap to go to claim the victory here in the Red Bull MotoGP Rookies Cup at Mugello.
It's now 6.7 seconds again between Brasby and O'Shea, so that's a wise head on O'Shea's shoulders. It's not! He's down! I can't believe it! I've done it! I've cursed him! He's down! Can he get running again though? Because he could still get a podium. He's running! Go on, Eddie! Get it done! Come on! You can't have thrown this podium away! Get it done, please! Oh my goodness! He lost it on the way in! I can't believe it!
That was a heavy fall, wasn't it? And he's a little bit lucky to be able to jump up and get the bike going again, but such a tragedy for him because he'd ridden so hard.
Oh,
but you know,
he's 7th.
He really should have realised, shouldn't he? There's a lap, you know, he's 6 seconds behind. There's a lap to go. He's not going to make it up.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's very easy for us to sit here in the warm, dry commentary box
and how many of them have already done that as well? I mean, it's all in the same boat. Oh, we can't take any swipes at him whatsoever. He tried, and that's kind of what matters, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to say that for all of them. They tried Buchanan. They all tried, you know, Gavin Planck. They've all, you know, put their heart and soul into this. So now there is the 18 of Angel Piqueras
chasing Salmela for the podium, but will he let it lie? Will he let it lie? This could be huge for the Finn. We're into the final sector now, Peter.
That's right. There's just a few corners remaining here. You can see that Brasby's clearly got second place, and it's Salmela and Piquez. Number 27 is the diminutive Finn, the 14-year-old. He has the advantage. He's just got to really keep it together. He's being chased by
Piqueras,
Angel Piqueras, the 15-year-old Spaniard.
However, he's done it. Max Chies, out the final corner he comes then, the master of the conditions.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant stuff. What a superb ride from way back in the grid. He had to find something special, and he's done that this afternoon. He takes the victory. 15 laps of perfection, and not taking anything away from the Thai Tachakorn Boazri, who crosses the line in second place, and the last place on the podium goes to Finland.
And with the fastest lap of the race so far as well. So the Casey Stoner fan, Rico Salmela, takes his first podium here in the Red Bull Rookies Cup, and that is 2 wins in a row for Max Chies now, after winning in the drive back in Jerez.
And he really has thrown down the gauntlet, doesn't he, as we wait for the points leader to still cross the line. Rosenthaler, Dittmar and Rosenthaler have crossed the line in 5th and 6th.
This
and there
is
the points
then.
leader.
Yeah, here he comes behind Marcos Ruda, so they're fighting for 11th, well, 10th and 11th spots. He'll come over in 11th. So Adetama got 5th place. Rosenhaler, the Austrian, 6th. Luciano, the Belgian, 7th. Brilliant from him. Rueda, well, that's damage limitation. You've got to hand it to him. He kept it upright because we've seen many a times how easy it was to crash out. Eddie O'Shea crossed the line in 13th, where he was meant to start the race. He'll be gutted, but he tried.
And now we only now see the man who was second in the points chase, Colin Fire. We're waiting for him to finish and pick up a single point, which he may be thankful for at the end of the year, but he still hasn't actually finished. We're still looking at the timing monitor, waiting for the Dutchman.
We'll hear him come across the line under our commentary position. I'll keep a lookout as well. I'm looking at the finish line now. The checkered flag is waving steadily. Here they come, maybe. Yes, that would be Fire, isn't it?
Colin Fire, the last point for 15th. And so he is, in fact, you know, he's over a minute, almost 2 minutes behind the leader. So he had started from the back of the grid. He had a long lap penalty to do. He was off the track. He fell. He got on again, and he picked up a point. Well, that's still better than a lot of people have done this afternoon.
I'll tell you what, Peter, I'm exhausted. That was so stressful to watch that, wasn't it? I mean, my goodness me, that was such a stressful race. So much heartbreak in it for guys. It was from one rider to the next. He's going to get his first win. He's going to get his first win. He's going. Oh God.
Yeah, and it's great to have these upside down races, isn't it? Where we think it's all going to be like this, and it turns out to be something completely different.
This was the race-winning overtake eventually then, was it? Brasserie making a mistake. Such a minor error, a real just slight warning from the rear end there. And that was it. It was Max Keeler's for the taking. He loved that. Yeah, absolutely superb. And as you so rightly point out, it's his second win in a row. He started the year with a crash in the first race in Spain. Then he got an 8th in the second race in Jerez, in Portugal, a 4th in the first race in Spain, and a win in the second race. So he's come on strong. He's now made that a double. And despite the fact that he only qualified way down, as I said, that was because he lost because of track limits some of his quickest laps. I think he's going to be a real threat, obviously, tomorrow. Well, let's hope we have a different race tomorrow. Let's hope it's dry, and we'll see something completely different. Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've seen him already perform well in the dry, haven't we? In Jerez, and get that win there. So 2 in a row for him. And what does that do to the standings? He's now 20 points behind Rueda now then. So that's closing in, isn't it? Here he is.
Yeah, superb stuff. And, we're only 5 races into what we hope will be a 14-race season. So, there's a huge number of points still to have. And he's really has slammed the gauntlet down to say, look, guys, watch out. I can do it. I can do it in the dry. I can do it in the wet. It was funny, talking to him after the race in Spain when he came from the middle of the pack. He said he almost didn't know how he managed it. Sort of, he was muddling around there in sort of 8th place. And then he just, superb. They enjoy that, and suddenly he said, I managed to get myself to the front.
Brilliant. Well, I mean, that's partly the best way for it to happen, really, isn't it, when you take your first rookies win? That's great to see from them too. Clearly so chuffed for each other. Rico Salmon, how much does he deserve that as well? Really tries super hard. He's always out of puff at the end of a session.
And he's a lot happier in these conditions. He was totally, the Finn was totally exhausted in the heat. He really couldn't stand the heat yesterday. He was hating it. It's a lot cooler today, and he's shown what he can do when the temperature drops.
A hug from Brasserie as well. Then he recognised the class of that ride from Everyone wants to hug Max Keeler's, and all the riders, don't they, after that one? I mean, just so glad you actually did it. Congratulations, you mastered the conditions, because it was just so visible how tough it was. And look at that down there. Cormac Buchanan comes to Parc Ferme as well. Obviously gutted, but immediately shakes the hand of the rider that ultimately did come out on top.
That's great for you to point that out, Matt, because that is class, isn't it, to come here and shake a hand there.
But that's what we love about the rookies. There's so much camaraderie between them all. They leave the fighting on the track. As soon as they get off it, they are all very, very chummy with each other, and great sportsmanship.
And I think Brasserie is somebody we're going to watch out for the Cup this year, because he's been tremendously consistent. He hasn't starred yet. Well, he starred enough in that race to get a second, but he's had a 5th, a 6th, a crash, and an 8th. But he's been in the hunt all the time. I think what he's done this year is better than those results really point out, just in terms of harsh points. And of course, he's on the podium now, and he was quick towards the end of last year. So I think he is settling in to put in a very, very strong year.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to say, I totally agree with you. And there he goes to get a hug from Cormac Buchanan as well. He's dishing hugs all around. So Tachikon, that's his first podium of the season, but first podium ever in Rookies Cup for Rico Salmela. Let's hear from him. He's down in Parc Ferme with Dominica.
Rico Salmela, big congratulations. What an intense race. Tell us how you feel.
The race was incredible. Start of the race, I just take it easy. The tire was a little bit cold, so I need to take easy. And in the end of the race, I start to gain positions. And then in the last lap, Eddie unluckily crashed. So I get the P3, and I'm so happy with this first podium in rookies. And I want to thank you, all the rookie staff, my family and all the sponsors and everyone who supports me.
Hopefully you get the same like tomorrow.
Yeah, I hope so. Tomorrow should be same weather, so we'll see.
Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Yeah, and I think, you know, as you've pointed out before, Mac, the confidence that will give him, brilliant ride there and absolutely superb stuff. The confidence that will give him, take him into tomorrow, quite likely in different conditions. But we've seen him run really well in the hot conditions, as we did in Jerez as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to make a huge difference to him going forward.
Well, he got P5 in Portugal, P7 in the first race at Jerez, P11 last time out, and now his first podium as well. Rico Samuel, that's great. Really appreciate also him saying, unfortunately, Eddie crashed out ahead of him. He appreciates how tough that was. But what about this then? First podium of the year for Tachacon Brasserie. How does he feel, Dominica?
Tachacon, congratulations. Tell us how happy are you and how easy or difficult was this race today for you?
Yeah, for me, this race is so difficult because I don't like wet race also. And finally, I can do and finish P2. In the middle in the race, I tried to pushing a little bit for cutting in the first position. And finally, when I open, it's always sliding. I stay for me. I tell him, keep calm and slow down a little bit. Yeah. And now thank you for everyone, and thank you for my fan, and thank you for my company.
You did a fantastic job. Is there anything else you would like to say?
Another necklace, I will tell more. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it's great to hear the honesty there, doesn't it? You know, he doesn't like riding in the rain, but we could have fooled us.
Yeah, but
and, you know, and how his heart was thumping when he had a couple of slides.
I know. He might not like riding in the rain, but he's very good at it, clearly. And I mean, it stems from riding in the rain in various Age of Talent Cup races throughout his career there as well. So, Brasserie, a great ride from him. But we're probably, yes, I think we can see him there. Max Quiles, 2 wins in a row. That must feel pretty sweet. Take it away, Dominica.
Max, the Pocket Rocket, another podium for you. What an intense race. Tell us, how was it?
Well, it was very, very difficult because it's very wet. It was very slippery. Now it's starting to rain much more, and I was very concentrated. I had a lot of sliding in the back. I was a little bit like, oof, relax. And then in the last lap, I was at the half of the race. Brasserie came in behind me, and then I went again. And then when I saw that I was like 6 seconds, I relaxed and I did the lap quite slow, and I win. So I'm very, very happy. I want to thank everybody, my family, my mother, Begonia, and my dad, Joseda, my sister, Alejandra, and everybody.
Do you think you can do it again tomorrow?
Yeah, I think so. Let's see tomorrow.
Well, looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
It's great to have just total unbridled enthusiasm and joy. You know, and OK, he's won and he's happy about it, but he's happy all the time, isn't he?
Oh, he loves it. He loves life as a Red Bull rookie, doesn't he? And who doesn't? It's just what a great programme for these young riders, and a great way for them to learn. And goodness me, yes, we can see from our commentary position how hard the rain is coming down even more now then. So Quiles proves he can win not just in the dry weather conditions, but in the wet as well. And I really like the honesty from our guys too about how difficult it was out there to stay concentrated throughout.
Yeah, that's right. And as you pointed out, it's a long race, you know, 15 laps.
40 minutes nearly.
40-minute race. That's a long time for the concentration. And, of course, you know, they were concentrated before that because, of course, they had the, you know, the sighting laps and that, and the 3 sighting laps. They're concentrating on what they're doing. So they've been concentrating. Their attention has been dialed in for an hour.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I mean, that's when motorcycle racing becomes an endurance sport. Like I said, these are then the results. The winning margins are just absolutely huge. Quiles won by 10 seconds in the end there, and you can see the last of the finishes over 2 minutes adrift. I mean, the conditions were so treacherous for there, and unfortunately, these are all the crashes. So many of them out of the lead, in fact, and absolute heartbreaking for all of them. But they are all okay, thankfully, and we can see them back out there tomorrow. That's the main thing. But what a ride that was. I can't wait to see what that does to the standings. It does actually leave Quiles and Fire level on points going into race 2 of this particular weekend tomorrow. 5 races down there. Rueda still leads the way by 20 points, but he's got Fire and Keyless now especially nipping at his heels. Unfortunately, O'Gorman quite a way down now, with Brasby moving up a few places. Piqueras, he's also on the move too. Lanetta a singular point behind him. Rico Salmela moves up a singular position, pushes Harry Voigt down a few to 9th as well. Then behind him in 10th, you got Farioli, who had a great recovery ride today. Plonk moves down a space after he crashed out. Great rides for Rosenthaler and Luciano. Ruda stays put in 14th. Sharil down a few places. Eddie O'Shea down a few places. But Aditama, he also enjoyed riding in the rain. He finished in 5th at the end there eventually as well. He's 17th for Moodley, Rollstone, Venturini, Buchanan, Heinrich, Mazera and Mihaila, the last of the points finishers.
And as you point out, you know, some big points gaps there, but as we saw today, it can all change just so quickly.
All you need is an errant weather forecast. You can see Anna Espeleta there in the proper rain poncho. She's keeping dry. These guys just debriefing now. What if we can hear what they're saying, actually? No, they're a little bit too far away from the microphone, unfortunately.
Yeah, but, you know, they're enjoying themselves, and they're all going to be sitting around tonight and discussing everybody's accident, because they, you know, it happened in front, you know, the leaders falling off. A lot of them saw what the other guy did, and they're going to be saying, oh, mate, you did this, I saw you flying, well, you know, all that sort of stuff. So there's going to be plenty to talk about as they relive the race tonight and go through things in their mind and just trying to work out what they might do differently if the weather is the same.
It does look to be potentially dry at some point tomorrow, but who knows as the riders come out onto the podium then. Enrico Salmela in 3rd, you've got Tachikon Brasby 2nd, Max Keyless does the long climb up to the top podium spot. Brilliant stuff.
And we have some pretty special trophies here in Rookies Cup all the time, and no exception. It's tradition here in Mugello that we have great partner Alpine Stars produce some specially decorated boots for the guys, and that's Willem Mitham, the Alpine Stars Racing Service gentleman who looks after our rookies so well, giving the very special Alpine Stars 3rd place boot. And now he's got one for 2nd, and he'll have a gold decorated one for our winner. So if you want a pair of boots, you've got to win both races.
Well, this is what I think I said last year, actually, here as well. Like, well, what happens? Is there a right boot up for grabs tomorrow, and you've got to try and finish in the same position?
There is, that's right. So it's no good, you know, you don't want odd boots, so you don't want to take a 2nd and a 1st. You need 2 wins. That's
brilliant,
right.
brilliant. No, I like that a lot. And top ladders will as well. Let's hear the race winners' national anthem.
So we've had over an hour of Red Bull MotoGP Rookies Cup drama. We're going to have more excitement tomorrow with race 2. The show will start at 16:20. But until then, it's goodbye from Matt Dunn and myself, Peter Clifford.
These are then the highlights for race 1 at Mugello in the Red Bull MotoGP Rookies Cup in 2022. It was wet, taken off, and this was about as orderly as the race was thereafter. It was Piqueras looking towards in the lead. Through as we came out of turn 1, we saw drama all over the place. It was O'Gorman who was leading the way initially. Then it was Farioli, your pole position sitter, who went down in the background there. He would carry on to finish in P9. But it was Plonk, the Frenchman, and O'Gorman battling it out for the lead. But not for long, because unfortunately Plonk succumbed to the conditions and crashed out of the race. Here he goes as he twists the throttle and goes down there at turn 3. Unfortunately out of the race. Fortunately okay. It left Gorman with a very, very healthy lead indeed. But for how long? Because he too would also crash out the race right here at turn 1. A disaster for the Irishman, who will be kicking himself for that one, unfortunately. Down he went in uncomfortable fashion, but fortunately, he's okay as well. And then it was the turn of the New Zealander, Cormac Buchanan, leading the way by many a seconds, and unfortunately, he crashed out as well, out of the lead. Oh, he was so gutted, and so were we, but you got to hand it to our rookies. They were trying in the toughest of conditions possible. Then our eyes and attention turned to the battle for the now first position with Quiles and Brasserie, and that was the moment that Quiles took the lead for the final time. He would clear off into the distance. Brasserie would settle for second, and as Eddie O'Shea was chasing them down on that final podium position on the final lap, he crashed, remounted, finished 13th. But Max Quiles takes 2 wins in a row here at Rookies Cup. One in the dry in Jerez, one in the sopping wet at Mugello. What a rider, what a Rookies Cup race, what a year in 2022. Join us for race 2 in Mugello on Sunday.